Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Complete Works. My name is Doug Hess, and I am your host. If you're tuning in to The Complete Works for the first time, welcome. A little bit of what we do here on this podcast. What we do is we try to discuss a specific movie from a film actor, actress, director, or composer's film career. Currently, we're working our way through the Nicolas Cage films, and today we're going to be talking about the movie The Humanity Bureau, starring Nicolas Cage. So, welcome aboard and sit back and enjoy the podcast. You can find more information about the Complete Works podcast on film-book.com. Again, that's film-book.com by using the search term The Complete Works. You can also email us at podcast@film-book.com. Again, that's podcast@film-book.com with the Complete Works in the subject line. You can also type in the Humanitarian Bureau so we know which particular episode that you're talking about. But if you like what you hear on this podcast, please hit the subscription button. So every time there's a new edition of the podcast, it automatically loads up to your device, whether it's your iPad, Android, etc. So you can get the latest and greatest edition of the movies of the Complete Works. Again, we're talking about the Humanitarian Bureau, starring Nicolas Cage, Sarah Lind, Jacob Davis, Hugh Dillon is also in this film, to name some of the other characters. But before we get into the film, like we always do here at the Complete Works, I'd like to start off with a little bit of trivia, kind of give you a little bit of a sense of the trivia going on with the Humanitarian Bureau starring Nicolas Cage. So Cage's character name is Noah Cross. John Huston's character in Chinatown shared the same name. Walter, or lack thereof, was important for both of these films that we'll talk about. The closing credits song, Done the Math, was written by Hugh Dillon and performed by his musical group Headstones. And like we said, Hugh Dillon is actually in this movie. So he not only is an actor, but he also wrote the closing song. This is the first Nicolas Cage science fiction movie since Knowing back in 2009, almost 10 years. And the sound effects used for the opening and closing of Noah Cross's phone is the same sound effect used for the cloak power-up in most of the Halo games. So just a little bit of trivia side note to let you know. So what really is the Humanitarian Bureau? Well, it's a 2018 Canadian science fiction thriller. It was directed by Rob W. King, and it was also written by David Schultz in terms of this. So the movie is set in the year 2030. And so we'll get back to that in just a minute. But it's something to keep in mind. The film was released on April the 6th, 2018 by Mind's Eye Entertainment. The film runs approximately 90 minutes in length, and it came out on disc or in the streaming world back on June 12, 2018. The budget for this film was approximately $6 million, what I could find. And as of today, I was only able to find that it's kind of grossed worldwide only $58,970 in terms of that. So just kind of some background for the movie, The Humanitarian Bureau, starring Nicolas Cage. And so let's jump right into the movie and talk about the plot. And then I'll kind of give you some of what the critics are saying. I'll also give you an idea of my thoughts on this latest movie of Nicolas Cage. So like I said, it's a thriller set in 2030, and this is when we see the world in a permanent state of economic recession. It's also facing some very serious environmental problems as a result of global warming. And like I mentioned, this was a 2018 Canadian science fiction thriller. And so it's based in Canada. And so I'll be referring to that throughout this podcast. So what is the plot? So that was kind of a quick overview, but what is really the plot and how did the movie develop in terms of that? So it's set obviously in the future where war, climate, political agendas has really robbed Americans of its resources. Now, you say Americans, I'm talking about North America. So look at Canada and the United States as North America, or the Americans, if you will. So we see that all of these have really robbed North America of its resources. So an agency that is called the Humanitarian Bureau has been created that wants to ensure to its residents that they are efficient. So they want to make sure that the citizens are efficient. Anybody or any citizen that is not efficient or inefficient are then deported to a city that is called New Eden. Okay, so Noah Cross, who is Nicolas Cage, or Nicolas Cage, I should say, really plays Noah Cross. He is an agent with the Humanitarian Bureau who manages the deportation of Chester Hill, which is a former governor of Colorado, who now lives in misery. When he was asked why he wishes to stay in such a squander area rather than being relocated to New Eden, he just simply says, "You know the truth." He tells Nicolas Cage, or I should say, Noah Cross, "You know the truth." And so Cross then kills Chester Hill in self-defense. So Cross, Nicolas Cage, is starting to evaluate the single mother, Rachel Weller, who's played by Sarah Lind, and her son Lucas, who is played by Jacob Davis. So through excuse me, though apparently struggling, they wish to stay in this area rather than being deported to New Haven. So Cross, he decides to delay sending his report in because Lucas needs to perform, or wants to perform, at a musical recital the following day. And so Cross has some fond memories of being up in Canada and fishing. And so as a boy, he wants Lucas to have those same positive, fond memories that he had. So what he decides to do is to delay his report to his supervisor. His supervisor sees this delay of getting the report to him as an act of insubordination, which then upsets the Bureau and catches the attention of the supervisor, Adam, of Cross. So Adam is Noah Cross, supervisor. So he places him under investigation. So Cross is under investigation by Adam. Rachel's resistance to the relocation and the truth prompted by Chester's motivated Cross to investigate New Eden. Excuse me. So Rachel understands that there's the truth that's out there. Chester, who was the former governor of Colorado, says, "You know the truth." So Chester, Nicolas Cage, then decides that he needs to investigate what is the truth, what is going on out there with New Eden, which is the place where ineffective citizens are being shipped to. So a defense contractor working for the Bureau gives Cross a memory card. So that's key. Remember this, a memory card. So the next day, Cross attends Lucas's recital, and then he also spends the night with Rachel and Lucas. So when he wakes up the next morning, he's outside and he sees that the Bureau is coming. He rushes inside so he can get Rachel and Lucas. Rachel is being held hostage by Adam. At this point, that's when her son Lucas shoots Adam in the eye with a BB gun, and then they all escape. They drive to a gas station where the owner of the gas station helps assist in the fight against the Bureau. And what he does is basically crashes or drives his truck into the Bureau vehicles, who are pursuing Noah, Rachel, and Lucas in that. So we go back to the Bureau. Adam, remember, Adam is the supervisor. He's astonished for failing to stop Cross. The Bureau director opens a package of what looks like dust in front of him and shows Adam shows Adam a child's tooth, warning him that if he fails again, this is what's going to end up to be with Adam, and then he's going to be sent up to New Eden. It is revealed to be extremely extremely harsh camp that is set up to exterminate or extermination camp, if you will, where unproductive citizens are being sent and then are incarcerated. Okay, so Cross has learned the truth and wants to seek a way to save both Rachel and Lucas from this horrible act that's going on up there. So during the flight, Cross trades his Bureau vehicle for an unmarked station wagon and learns of a man who may know a way to the north. So north is kind of, think of it as a safety zone that they're trying to get up to. So when they find the man, they learn that the way north to Canada is highly active with radiation, and that no one ever that goes up there ever really returns. So it's kind of like a death camp in its own. When he insists, when he insists, meaning Noah, the man gives Cross a Geiger counter, a device. So a Geiger counter is really a device that's going to help measure radiation, and some iodine tablets, which was going to absorb the radiation. Cross gives Lucas a rabbit's foot for good luck during the trip. Okay, so they're up north, or they're trying to get up north. Everybody's been told that there's basically nuclear fallout out there. You don't want to go up north. If you do, you're not going to return. Nothing but something bad's going to happen to you. But Cross and Rachel Lucas insist they want to get up there, and so the man gives him some information. So they're driving along, and that is when Cross notices that a drone is searching or looking for them. After becoming tired and frustrated, waiting for it to pass, Cross and Rachel get into an argument where Cross reveals that he knows the real Rachel Weller, and this woman is not her. Apparently, years ago, on a Bureau investigation, Cross and the real Rachel happened to conceive a child who is Lucas. So when the famine struck, Rachel tried to sell Lucas as food to her neighbor Amanda, who bought and killed her, and then took Lucas on her own. So Cross understands that Rachel isn't the real Rachel, but we find out is actually a neighbor, because Rachel, during this recession and economic hardship and fallout that is going on in the country, basically has to sell Lucas for food. And then that is when Amanda actually kills her and takes Lucas as her own, and then takes Rachel's identity as well. So the three continue to evade the Bureau, and they eventually make it to the nuclear power plant that is up north, which the man had highly warned them about, and also told them that it's full of radiation. So they get out their Geiger counter and they start to scan the area, just to find out that there is really no radiation at all. Basically, they have found that it's a scare tactic that's trying to keep people from fleeing up north there. Finally, at the border, the Bureau catches up with Cross, and they demand that he gives them the memory card that he received earlier in the movie. When Adam reads the card, he finds out it's blank. There's nothing on the memory card. He then kills Cross and Rachel and tells Lucas to run off on his own. Later, we find out that Canadian troopers shoot the Bureau members and take in Lucas. It is then that they find out that the real memory card was in the rabbit foot that Cross had given Lucas when they began their journey up north for good luck. In terms of that. So what did they find on the memory card? Well, what we find out is that the footage, there's actually disturbing footage revealing that New Eden is nothing more than a death camp, sparking a revolution against the Bureau. And then what we finally see is Nicolas finally getting to visit the lake that Cross had used to fish in when he was a little kid. What really delayed the trip and really started all this off. So that's kind of a quick version of the Bureau, um, the Humanitarian Bureau, starring Nicolas Cage as Noah Cross. Overall, the critics were saying with this film, very few really enjoyed the film. I went out there to Rotten Tomatoes and some other sites, kind of giving me an idea of what others were thinking of the movie, and most of them thought it was a 2 or a 3. A lot of fans were basically saying that this was not even an A movie, but more of a B movie. And really was showing just how far Nicolas Cage has kind of fell in the process. I would tend to agree that this was kind of on the lower end of the Nicolas Cage films. By no stretch of the imagination is this anywhere where he was at the height of his career when he won the Academy Award, and just some of the other movies that were fun. This to me kind of fell flat. At times, it was hard to get through the movie, to be completely honest with you. It wasn't something that really kept my attention. Now, when I first saw the Humanitarian Bureau, it kind of reminded me, just the name of it, of another film that was talking about the Bureau. And right now, unfortunately, I'm drawing a complete blank, but it had, I can't even think of the actor's name that's in it as well. And so I apologize. I had it on the tip of my tongue and I can't remember it now. But it didn't even come close to that. This movie really felt flat for me. And I have to agree with most of, whether it was the critics, but I also have to agree with most of the fans. I would give this on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being an extremely great movie. I would give it a 2. I really wanted to give it a 1, but because it's Nicolas Cage, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and really provide a 2-star out of 10. This really didn't do anything for me. I'll be honest with you, with a film that was 90 minutes in length, I was ready for the film to be over with in terms of that. So, and if you're a diehard Nicolas Cage fan, I apologize up front because he is a good actor. This just didn't do it for me in terms of that. So, love to hear your feedback and your thoughts on it. But until then, I'd like to thank you for listening to this episode of The Complete Works. You can find more of my work on film-book.com. Again, that's film-book.com. Just search for Doug Hess or The Complete Works. You can also find me on Twitter at HessDoug14. Again, that's HessDoug at 14. If you're interested in listening to this podcast on iTunes or another podcast service, please rate and review this episode. If you're listening to this podcast on the YouTube channel, FilmBook Podcast, please like our video, subscribe to our channel, and leave us a comment in the comment section. Love to hear that. I also love to see your emails. So please feel free to send us an email.